So this is the agenda. We'll talk about the most important thing is the 6 specific areas of an admission. And Aditya, you will probably connect with this a lot more than any one of us, which is, what are the 6 dimensions of an application? Again, I have an engineering background, so I always think in a very logical way in terms of what the problem is and how do I break it down into smaller parts. We'll talk about what I do besides as an architect, some of the mistakes I made, which were very, very costly down the line, which I hope none of you do. Rahul, you'll probably forget all these things by the time your kid gets to that age, but you and I know each other for way too long, so we will connect more and talk more later. I will also then talk about the college searches, which is how do you go about searching for a college, not just going by the US news, looking at the top 30 colleges or top 20 colleges from there, but actually spending time to understand what your child is about, what the different school is about. I don't expect you to do a whole PhD on it, but knowing what some of the high level things are. There are 3,000 colleges in the US, and you obviously want only one school. It's like a speed dating match you do with your child and the school to figure out what really works for them and doesn't work. The impact on not making a good decision can be catastrophic, which is your child's going to be in the school for 4 whole years. So back in the days when I was studying, we didn't really have that kind of option to decide which school you want to go to. But here we do have that option, and making the right call could be the difference between your child graduating or not graduating altogether. And we'll go into more details about that. We'll talk about the essays, the AP SAT strategy, the APs, which is advanced placements, the thing which most people really look details into on what AP strategy should be. We'll talk a little bit about it. Again, most of this is today, what I'm going to talk is very high level kind of things. Feel free to reach out to me more if you have specific questions. I'm here for you guys. Like I said, I do this because of a passion personally and want to help the community really do well in their lives, okay? This is quickly about our backgrounds. And by the way, you can just stop me anytime if you have a specific question. These are my 2 daughters, Shreya and Dia, who do this work with me. Dia is more my marketing manager. She does more of my advertising on TikToks, and she makes all these wacky videos on Instagram and stuff for me. Shreya is my nerd of my house. She's the one who goes to Wellesley College in Boston, and she's the one who I learned a lot of this business around, and she helps me with a lot of when I work with students on their essays and stuff. She's the one who kind of keeps me honest, or keeps me focused to make a good job of the student applications. But we're just a family-run business. So it's one of the big reasons I do this is because I want my children to learn about business and how the parents not to get screwed along the way with the process. We are, our value proposition is really success coaches, less about college admissions, more about making students really successful in the long term of life. So we take pride in our students coming back and working with us, where again and again, not just for college admissions, for interviews and down the line with their lives. That's the holy grail of the business, which is get them skills, use college admissions as the linchpin around which we teach them time management and strategic management of time, intellectual curiosity, growth mindsets, things which you will learn at the age of 40 or 45 in your life. If it's from me, I want you all to learn this a lot sooner so you can start your own companies and have what we call as the hustler mindset. I'm a big proponent of entrepreneurship. A big part of my teaching to my students is on those lines. In fact, next week I'm running a three session workshop across the week on basically entrepreneurship principles. And my goal is my students, all of them who come to me, run side businesses of their own, very similar to what I do over here. So they make money down the line for themselves. Okay. These are some of my reviews of people. This is one thing I'm going to talk a lot about the 6 different dimensions of an application. And so without that further ado, let's go into that. Okay. And like I said, any number of questions, you can unmute yourself and ask me any questions you have. But fundamentally,
hey, Harpal, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Kiran. How are you?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, pretty good. Sorry, I think I had an issue. So yeah. Okay, thank you.
Just fine, man. Okay, great. Hey, Karthik, welcome, man, to this line. But we're keeping it fairly informal, Kiran, Karthik, everybody, ask questions along the way. That's what this session is about, okay? And I'll be here for longer than an hour if you need me to be here. And I promise you guys will learn a lot of amazing things from my mistakes and things that I did well, okay, along the way. So 6 things you will always want to know about your application is these 6 pillars, right? Most of us think in terms of, we're focused only on academics and taking more AP exams or dual enrollments and trying very hard to show that, oh my God, I got a 4.0 and a 5.0. I'm here to tell you that that is one part of it. For example, if you're applying to like a University of California or a public school, that could mean like 60 to 70% of the application. But to a private school like a Harvard, that's more like 50% of the application. So this is a very important part, getting your grades and stuff in order, but that's in some ways it's table stakes. Having a 4.0 or having a 3.7 or 3.6, you're expected to get that, okay? I mean, if you can't get to that level, then if you're like a 3.2, 3.3, that's okay too. And there are 3,000 schools in this country, okay? But the top schools, the top 50, top 100 might not be for you. That doesn't make you any less of a student. I see a lot of my students are under so much stress to get a 4.0. And the problem is they lose the mojo. They don't learning for the heck of learning to become somebody good at physics or at chemistry. They learn it to get a 4.0, which is very, very unfortunate in the system that we have in play today, okay? But applications are really 6 things, and the weakest chain could break this. A chain is only as strong as the weakest link. If you have a great GPA but not as good personal essays, you're pretty much screwed, okay? If SAT, ACT mattered a lot more until it became optional, and we'll talk about why it's not really optional. It is still very, very critical. But if your recommendation letters are not kick-ass, which means they're not talking, Dharmraj's son's name is Aditya, right? Is that right? So yes. I'm just going to use Aditya, you as the example to explain these so that everybody gets the metaphor clear. And I'm just using that because you're the only kid on this call and all the others are older people here on the call, okay? But my point is, if Aditya, your teacher, gives a recommendation letter which just says, he came in the class, he did okay. I mean, she writes the standard thing, but nothing interesting the story about you, saying Aditya was struggling in this particular subject. I know he was struggling, but he worked his tail off. He turned things around. That recommendation letter is worth nothing. Okay. So getting a good recommendation letter does not mean getting it from the best teacher or the most popular teacher around. It's about getting it from somebody who can talk about the core of your personality. Okay. And we talk in more details about this in our recommendation sessions in general. Extracurricular activities don't have to be, taking a class at Brown University or, which is per se just academia. But extracurricular doesn't have to mean that you were the president of DECA or of a club member over here. Extracurriculars are truly meant to show like, heck, if I play cricket, I worked my tail off playing it, okay? If you can't bring your extracurricular activities in your essays to show what you learned about life, then your extracurricular are meaningless in some ways. Your maximum impact that you can have is really here, extracurricular activities. So quality extracurriculars, planning for good summer internships, planning to actually work, not just getting into UC Cosmos or MIT SRI. These are like some of the top internship programs. But actually having like, heck, I worked at a Jamba Juice. Like my younger one works at Jamba Juice. Okay? She's a cashier over there. She has stories about as a cashier, things she has learned along the way. These are the mistakes I made. I didn't let my nerd daughter, my older one, go and work in the retail industry. Okay. But now for the younger one, I'm like, heck, you know what? Get those skills. That kid wakes up at 7:30 on a Saturday morning, goes to Jamba Juice from 8 to 11, has stories she's building up. So I can tell you, Aditya, when she comes and makes her application, she'll be talking about stories of what she learned at Jamba Juice, okay? And that's very easy to get. You can, as a 14-year-old, as a 15-year-old, you can work in, at a Taco Bell, at Target and stuff, build some of that regimen, start showing some money things that you figure out, okay? Those are things which are in your hands. Like I said, getting a Salvation Army boot camp, you did a fundraiser here and there, that's good, but doesn't really separate you from the pack, okay? Demonstrated interest is another big one, which is not only when you're applying to Stanford, it's not just why Stanford. You need to have talked to a few professors at Stanford. You need to have gone to Stanford, listened to a few of their webinars. You need to have known the school at its ethos, okay? Reading about the school. So we actually build dossiers about each school, the ones you're going to apply to. It's very important for the school to know that you really want them. And do you know why you need to know that you want them? There's something called the yield ratio. Okay? Yield is something which is when you apply to a school and they accept you, but now you don't take their acceptance, you go to some another school. Okay, their yield falls. Okay, so schools are very careful about who they make an offer to. They want at least a 50% yield, which means 50% of people they make an offer to should accept it. What happens if you apply to a school where you come to know the yield is only 20%, which means 8 out of the 10 students rejected that school. Okay, you're not going to apply just by knowing just that much about a school. Okay, so knowing that thing is very important, about that demonstrated interest, about showing the school that, hey, if you take me, I will come back to you. I will absolutely take you. Okay, any questions about these 6 dimensions that I talked about so far? How many APs should you apply for? Aditya, go ahead. Tell me, how many APs have you taken so far?
So far, I've taken around like 6 to 7 APs, maybe a bit more.
Okay. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? That 6, 7 done by 11th grade?
For me, for GPA, I think that's a good thing, but I think colleges will still see like I should do other things too.
Okay. So in my humble opinion, you should not take more than 6, 7 total across your high school years. Okay. And those 6, 7 should be very targeted. You can't take like AP Psych, AP Environmental Sciences, or AP Economics, Macro, Micro, which kind of help you your GPA, but the schools can see through it. They're like, okay, he's trying to maximize his GPA. Okay. The unweighted GPA, weighted versus unweighted, or the weighted GPA. So my, is getting a 4.0 a good thing?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Is getting a 4.0, being a valedictorian, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
For me, I would think that's a good thing to be a valedictorian.
Are you able to hear him, Harpal? We are having a little bit challenge.
The voice cracked a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. It's probably, let me go off the camera.
Okay. It's okay. It doesn't matter. It's okay. Anybody can give me the answer, right? My question was really around valedictorians, because guess how many valedictorians apply to Harvard? Harvard can take in only 1,700 students total. Okay. Anybody having a guess? Come on, take a shot at it. Throw it in the chat or just tell me. Just go off saying, how many valedictorian applications does Harvard get every year? Three times more. Okay. So the number of applications they get just from valedictorians, or over 5,000 applications just from valedictorians. Take another shot. When you look at advanced placements, and Rahul, are you getting this concept? We're talking about advanced placements and stuff, which are probably not as knowledgeable to you, or even to Vidya, who's come from Canada. But APs are pretty much like your
Not
IBs.
yet.
Yeah. So APs are like IBs or like concurrent enrollment, dual enrollment, or things like that. But if you look at just APs, they get applications, anything over like 6 or 7 APs, the school doesn't even look at it, because they're like, okay, this kid has figured out how to master how to give an exam. But if you've taken AP Environmental Science, or you've taken AP in say music theory, not really, but you've done, if you took AP Lit and you're applying to a hardcore STEM school, how important is the AP? Not as important. Okay. You could show versatility of your personality, but we're very, very careful what APs you take, because I should be able to, by just looking at a resume, I should just look at the resume of the transcript, be able to second guess which call is this, or which discipline is this student going to apply to. Okay. And that is key, to be able to make that decision very quickly by looking at things.
So Harpal, I have a question.
Ahead,
let's say if my kid wants to do a major in business, right?
Yes.
Whether it can be marketing or accounting or information systems.
Yeah.
But if you're taking the APs along the same lines as like macroeconomics or microeconomics, are you saying that then you can build a story that, hey, this is related to that, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to go to a business school, if where business is what you're doing, so maybe you don't. So maybe you take AP Calculus BC. Maybe you go to AP Multivariate, not AP Multivariate Calculus, or you go on to Macro Micro. Maybe have AP Psych. Maybe have even AP Lit in between. You don't need a push. You don't need that, right? So, but
got it.
Or you don't need AP Chem, AP Bio. It's of no use to you, right? But some students will go crazy over these kind of things. So that's the part I'm talking about, which is, be very, very thoughtful about what you're taking. And because it'll show, like when a UC is looking at the application.
Got it. Because in our school district, in the course catalog, they have broken it down by various themes like science, math, English, business.
Yeah.
If we see any AP relevant courses within their business, then it is okay to be aligned to that particular category.
It is, and if you land up taking an AP which is not even being offered by a school, and you land up taking it because you self-studied for it, that even gives you double points, because you're like, okay, I love that subject so much. I did a dual enrollment.
Got it.
And actually I did AP on my own. That shows really cool, because shows entrepreneurial initiative on your side.
Got it.
Remember one thing, Karthik, which is if you have
I think you need to tell a story, right?
Somebody, Rahul, your voice broke. Did somebody say something?
No, I was saying that. I was saying that I think in the day you have to tell a story through all of your various courses, right?
The bigger thing, correct. The story has to come together, and it has to have been work involved to get that application. Like if a school was offering an AP environmental science and you took it, then it's okay. You did it because the school was offering it. What if the school was not offering it and you landed up taking it outside? You hired somebody and you learned it from somebody over YouTube or something, right? Without showing that you're very elitist. If you could show that, that's pretty cool. The crux of where I'm going is you could have everything in place. You could have a rigorous transcript. You could have excellent scores. You could have shown talent, passion. You could have gone through the interview process, talking to a professor or alumni interview. Everything could have happened. But you might still not get in because somewhere the fit just did not happen. Okay, but don't take it personally. That's why I'm seeing a lot of my students, I'm putting in like 15 to 20 applications. And mind you, 15, 20 applications is a lot of work. Okay. Each application is about like 25 to 30 hours of work for the student. It becomes lesser over time, but even your last application will take you at least 10 hours to put a quality job together. So the ethos of getting everything together to be able to write if it took you September of senior year for the first time to look at a common app, you're already screwed, in my humble opinion. Okay, you have to have done these things earlier, which is why I try to find my students in the 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, because I'm like, use this as a way to become really far-sighted, not just about writing an essay about yourself. It's about becoming a good writer, writing persuasively, writing thoughtfully, writing, showing intellectual curiosity. These are skills that will go with you for the rest of your life, right? It's such a fun thing for me to do that don't even take it as something which is a drudgery. And I'm hoping people will, take that from this session anyways. Okay? Then we go into the curriculum, right? Many times students will come and ask me, or parents will say, what if I want to make sure I'm on track with everything? Okay, what are the things I need to be doing? Okay, then I'm like, okay, in freshman year and sophomore year, you don't have to do a whole lot about, make sure I review your activities, that they're in sync with where you want to go. Make sure you figured out what are the summer programs available to you. Visit some colleges, going down to Santa Clara University in the Bay Area if you live over here, or to a local school, in wherever you are. Sitting in the class or just going to the cafe and just seeing what's there around you will slowly start building a charm in you that, this is something which I want to do. You don't want to go to college as saying, oh my God, I have to go to it. You've got to be wanting it in yourself. Okay. Start working towards your recommendation targets. Who are your teachers? You don't just go to a teacher and surprise them in the 12th grade saying, hey, can you write me a recommendation letter? No, it's got to be something which is planned over time. In 10th grade, 11th grade, you plan for the teachers you want to be writing your recommendation. Literally feed them stuff over time, which they just cut and paste and make your application for you. Okay, so it's a whole strategy around the whole process. In junior year, things get harder, right? Junior year, we want to put together a whole master list of colleges. Yes, go ahead.
I had just one quick question. So you're saying that when you're in the 9th grade, that's the time you should go and visit the colleges to build the understanding about the colleges?
You should start. I mean, nothing wrong in a 9th grade might be a little too soon, but between 9th and 10th and 11th, start seeing some colleges. Go to a local school close by, a state school. So go to UT Dallas, right? Just make your students see what life is like. Maybe even attend one class. Let your students sit in a classroom too. And all these universities allow students to come in and sit in the class, right? Have them talk to the admissions officers. Listen to one of the dean of admissions. start building that cadence. You need it. You can't be surprised in 12th grade. That muscle memory has to be built over time.
Yeah, because I mean, I have my little one and she's not still sure what she wants to do. So in that case, I mean, it's like too early for her to really decide where exactly she should go and see. But anyway, I think I got what you're saying.
Well, we can talk more about it, then, Raj. We can actually, I mean, I'm here to, I mean, there are ways to make this work. There's a ways to, like, there are all these extension courses you can take in these these colleges. There are ways to get the child there, but not to get overwhelmed by it. It's just not very hard.
Sure.
But 12th grade is, by 12th grade, you want to make sure your summer visit has 6 to 12 colleges lined up, okay, virtually or in person. There's work required that you need to get this in place. You need to have a master list of colleges, like 60 colleges, which are your target, like which you're going to start breaking it down from. Saying, okay, here are my 60 colleges. By the time I get to my 12th grade, I will have it down to like 15 to 20 colleges. And University of California does not count as 10 colleges. UC counts as one college, okay, for the application perspective. You typically need to put in about 15 to 18 applications. It's become extremely competitive now, okay? So very important to have the target list built out in itself. Yeah.
Harpal, can you talk about a little bit how do you do the target list? Is it let's say you're again business major?
Yeah.
And I subscribe to US News, right? Like where they have this college things. What variables do we need to look for, like GPA or SAT? Like what are the key variables to build the target list?
Yeah, I will actually. That's one of the slides that's coming up.
Okay.
I will connect to you in more details of that. Okay. All right. So just this same thing in a little more of a visual way. Let me get some points across to you. And because a lot of parents ask me these questions, and I do make sure that they all understood it. Okay. In freshman year, you want to make sure that you know some basics about College 101. What is college about? What are the different careers you can look into? By the way, each of these links over here point to like what is intellectual curiosity. You want your child to start learning concepts of these things early on. So like careers and majors, if I click on this, it goes to a Google Classroom of mine where I talk to students about why go to college, what are the majors, careers that they can apply to and stuff. But the goal being that you are making that discussion happen proactively. So like I typically do this in November, December, and Jan. So these are 3 months when my students, literally my sophomores, my freshmen, and my juniors, they are the ones I'm after. I'm on their tail starting 30th November because that's when I finish off with my seniors for the year. But so if you look at this is how freshmen have to do their work with me. They put together summer applications essays that they have to write for summer applications. We finish that work. We've worked through what's called a parental partnership. It's to say what are the rules of engagement going forward for the future for you guys together. Extracurricular, what they are, what are they not. Financial planning in terms of how much it costs to go to college and how much do you have, what do you want to plan for. We start doing that work as well. In sophomore year, you can see I've put in some more green spots over here. These ones in green are things that we start working with them in more details around, like creating college lists, persuasive writing. Like how do you write in a persuasive manner where somebody says, oh my goodness, this guy is cool. Our kids don't really know how to write persuasively. Okay? Merit scholarships, which is, I'll explain to you what that is, growth mindsets. What are the different types of colleges? We go through that. Then in junior year, things get more complicated. We want them to do a Common App review in December itself. We want them to actually write. So like right now, my juniors are writing a whole Common App, which is one of the very important things they have to do in the senior year. But I'm making them do it right here. So they start understanding these concepts a lot quicker. Okay. What are your values? What do you bring to the table in terms of your personality? Who are you? Like, are you a creative person? Are you a bookworm? Are you a teacher? Are you a leader? Like, tell me what your values are. Are you about honesty, about, whatever you are about. I start getting into the details about their values, okay? We also start working the recommendations by January itself of junior year. Then junior year, we are going into creating college lists. So these are all the things to be done by February. We start creating dossiers, which means limited set of documents, which are saying, what did I learn about this college? Who are the professors I want to talk to at some point? Yada, yada, yada. We also do what's called as mock interviews, confident conversations. So the students can make calls to professors at colleges to have a discussion about a particular subject that they're learning, to talk to them about some research that the college is doing or that professor is doing, because you want to make sure that the student, and when your application goes to the college, you write over there that the Professor John Doe and I talked a while back, and that's why I'm coming to the school. When you write the word John Doe in there, Professor John Doe will be called and asked, when did the last time you talked to this dude? And that's what makes the application a lot stronger. But there's a lot of work to make the student confident to make phone calls of these kind. We teach them this process. I did all this for Shreya, by the way, my older one. This is when senior year starts. Senior years, things get really hard. So starting June itself, we start really cranking things up. We start putting the early action, early decision, regular decision strategy right away. We start putting college lists together. A lot of stuff starts. Resume spikes. We'll explain to you what that means. How do you make your resume more interesting? By August, they've already firmed up their stories, what they want to be writing. Most students are just waking up in August. In my case, by August, they have already written their initial UC application is done. They have what's called as the Common App in some form or shape ready. Because by September and October, the first set of applications for early applications are going out. So Georgia Tech and some of the good schools, including Penn State, some of the state schools are also having their early action deadlines in October. Some are what's called as rolling admissions, and you want all rolling admissions, you want to apply to them very early, like August timeframe, because that's when you get the maximum discounts, because they have a pot of money that they have to use up. The state
What is UC Harpo?
University of California. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, UC is typically the gold standard because UC has 10 colleges, and so and again, I'm myself from the Bay Area, so I use UC very commonly as a term. Okay, but UCSA is like for us the holy grail, saying because the UC application is a lot easier to write than the Common App. So UC, because the questions are very tactical, very simple questions, and I'll go over some of those questions too. It sets the baseline for you to write your Common App, which is a lot more, for lack of better words, nebulous and not as comprehensive, or it's much harder to comprehend a Common App. It's very common for students to just keep staring at the Common App questions and not know what to write in their essay. Whereas UC is a lot more tactical questions, like tell me about a leadership time you had, yada, yada, yada. A lot easier to write those answers.
What is Common App, Harpal? Common App
Common App is the norm. So when you apply to colleges, a Common App is the baseline. So there are 3-4 kinds of applications in the US, which are the most prevalent. So when you apply to a school, you don't just apply to that school. You rarely will have an application which is just specific to that school. You typically go through a platform where the school will say, okay, we accept Common App, where they'll say, okay, so your essay, your main essay, your personal story, you can use whatever you put for Common App. And there are 1,000 schools in the country which accept Common Apps. Okay, there are about 400 schools which accept the Coalition App. So for example, UWash, University of Washington in Seattle, only accepts Coalition App. Okay, there are schools like Georgetown, which have their own app completely. MIT has its own app. Stanford follows Common App. So Stanford will take both Coalition and Common App. Okay, UT Austin will take Coalition, and I think UT Austin is only on Coalition. UCs have their own application, right? So if you go across just 4 applications, UT, which is University of Texas, UT has its own application, or UT most schools accept, so 3 actually. Common App, Coalition App, and UC are the 3 main application types you have to know about. Most of the time, Common App and Coalition App, their essays also overlap. So when you apply to a college, you have to send them a personal essay, okay, which typically is common across all colleges. Then you have to write a supplemental essay. The colleges could have maybe 2 or 3 prompts or 5 prompts, which are specific to that school. Okay, so one is the Common App, which goes to everybody, but then you have to write supplementals which are more targeted to that school, which is how you put your application together. Your recommendations go to all of them through the same channel. Okay, this is how you get to the 20 schools versus saying, oh my God, I have to write 20 different applications for 20 schools. You'll go crazy. Clear?
Harpal, these essays, I know
Concept
you
clear?
mentioned it is one of the key links. Do they really go through every essay that is, because you said like they receive like thousands and thousands of applications. How detailed do they actually read through the essays and interpret a student's profile?
So let's so think of it like this: your essay is the gateway to your personality. Okay, If your essay is just, I did this, I did that, does not follow what's called as the hero's journey. We'll talk about that as well. If it's not, let me stop the screen because people are all looking at the screen right now and getting distracted with the question. The essay is an extremely important part because it is the story behind the story. You're saying your marks. Your resume or your extracurricular are only saying what you did. Okay. Your SAT score is saying what you achieved. Okay. Your recommendation letter is saying what the teacher thinks about you. What nobody talks about is the story behind the story. Okay. And the essay is supposed to be the story behind the story, showing that empathetic side of your personality. If you do a Google search on called the Costco essay, okay, where the student talked about how walking through Costco reminded him of his life, how he built his life over time, walking through the aisles. That kind of builds the core ethos of your personality. Particularly if you're applying to every school will read the essays. If you have a grammatical mistake, if you have a period instead of a comma, those things are taken very, very, very seriously, which shows that lack of attention to detail, not answering the question. Like 90% of the problems I face with my students is they will write an answer that they have already thought about in their mind. They see the question, they're like, I already know the answer. They try to stick what they already know into a prompt versus really thinking about the question. So to answer your question, it's a very, very important part. But I also see a situation where I have students who will spend days and days and days on writing the same essay over and over again. And I'm like, this is stupid. This is where they go on the other end. Focus on your extracurriculars, focus on getting a recommendation, focus on your concurrent enrollments, focus on the APs, focus on your subjects. It's all got to come all together. And that's why you need a counselor who can kind of, guide you through this process. Even for my own kids, even though I'm a counselor, I hire an external counselor for them because it's a conflict of interest where my kids will never listen to me. All my other kids who pay me money will listen to me, but they don't listen to me because that's just what it is. Nobody wants to listen to their parents. Okay. Does that answer the question, Karthik, or did I go crazy over the answer?
Yes, you did answer, Harpal. Thank you.
Okay, all right. So this is typically the 6 mistakes I talk about where I'm like, you need to plan ahead. You need to, like I said, the list of colleges you're going to apply to is very, very critical. It's very common for students like to miss deadlines or to apply on the last day. Make sure you're not doing any of those mistakes, but that can be a disaster. So like I actually, I don't know if you saw my, when I was showing the Miro screen here, which was like I actually in the senior year, I will make my students, where did it go? Okay. So I'll actually make them in the month of June, they have to finish their college list and their final list with the strategy of what is their last date. So I finished that in June, July itself. Okay. So you can't be waiting till the last day or the last month to decide, oh my God, I need to apply to this school or something like that. It's all that has to have been planned a lot in advance and no knee-jerk reaction last minute. Stick to a plan. Have checkpoints with your counselor, with your parents. Have somebody who keeps you honest and on track. That's why that timeline that I have saying, okay, by this time, if you have this in play, you are okay. So I'm able to tell my parents and my students way in advance if I think they are slacking behind. Okay. Communication is super critical. Start working early on the Common App. Like, for example, my seniors or my juniors are right now writing in December, they're writing their Common App for next year. Okay. It's a mock Common App, but they're doing it because they're getting the feel of what the writing of a Common App should be about. Okay. Standardized tests are very important. SAT, ACT are super critical. Okay. Make sure you do it. Just because the school says it's SAT optional, you don't make it optional. The only time SAT becomes optional, you don't submit it, is if you have a score of say 1200 or 1300. Anything over 1300, please submit it. You want to get the accolades for that as well. Okay. Your internships matter. Recommendation letters really make you stand out. So plan for those.
Hey, Harpal, I'm sorry, I think Aditya has one question.
Go ahead, Aditya.
My question was that is this going to be for because I'm thinking for myself right now, I'm planning to go for a pre-med as my route. And for me, thinking about going to an undergrad school in state. My school of like choice is UT, and I've looked at their admission processes. And one of the admissions says that the top 6% make automatic admission, and there's also like challenges for majors. So I'm in that top 6% right now, so I can automatically make it. And the only challenge right now is to get my major that I want. You know, like what I should do to plan for that, because like I need to like fight for the major that I need.
When you apply for pre-med, my understanding and everything I've talked to, people who made it to med school is diversity is celebrated a lot.
Right.
If you get into say a major like say a psych or business, and you still want to study pre-med, as long as you've taken some of the prerequisites, like some of the bio courses and stuff, they definitely will, because they, like I said, they want people who have thought this through a lot. For them, a student who was initially taking a business major and now comes to pre-med, towards the med track is actually more valuable than a student who was like from the age of 8 was like, oh, I want to become a doctor, because their chances are they're burnt out by the time, students change their mind again and again. I am not a big fan of this whole med school track in general. I'm like, I try very hard to persuade my students not to even think about it. And I'm definitely not into the 6-year and 8-year programs which completely bind you into the pre-med track. So keep your options open. Go to a school which where it is easier to get a 4.0. For example, UT Austin is pretty hard to get a 4.0. So that's a very, very competitive school. UCLA is a horribly hard school to get a 4.0. Med schools are suckers for people who have a 4.0. And if you're going to go to a school which makes it really hard and you've got like a couple of B's and stuff, I don't care where you went, it's going to show up on your application. In fact, I'm also a big proponent of community colleges. Community colleges, because they cost a dime compared to this one, to the, well, actually, I'm going to go into that in a little later. But pre-med, if you're thinking about it, try to go to a cheaper school, so you can save that money to actually apply to med school. Otherwise, you're going to be in a lot of debt down the line. Okay? Does that answer the question, Aditya?
Yes, that does answer.
Okay, all right. So college fit, this was the question a little earlier you guys were talking about, right? How do you figure out if it's a college is the right place for us? We physically walked into like about 20 schools. Me and Shreya, when Shreya was going to apply, so like the summer between junior and senior year, we went to these schools in person, like 20 schools, and Wellesley College was school number 18 on the list, okay? So which was at the fag end of a 2-week tour. We were like shopping from, we were hopping from one school to the other in the West Coast first, and then we jumped over to the East Coast and we did the same thing. So for like 14 days, we slept out of suitcase every night, moving from city to city to figure out if the school is what we wanted. So big things that we were looking for, we knew the cost factor fairly early, and distance from home, like for example, it was very important for us that the school is within an hour of reaching a airport which has a straight direct flight back home to the Bay Area. She wanted to go to a very small school because she's big into having intimate, detailed conversations with her teachers. And a large school like Arizona State or a UC or UCLA, or like 30,000-40,000 students in these schools, it's very hard. So for us, we wanted to go to a school which was very small, like a 2,000-3,000 student school, and Wellesley fit that exactly what we wanted. In terms of atmosphere, Shreya likes going to the city, but she's not a city girl. I know that. But so we wanted a place which had an urban setting, but she had access to a downtown whenever she could get to. So at Wellesley College, it is in the middle of a forest. It's literally like a Harry Potter castle environment, okay? And so she's there the entire week, but on the weekends, she goes and meets her friends over at Harvard and MIT, and she's in the city with them in Boston, downtown. So she loved that combination of the environment. Academics, super critical that, the academics, like she wanted to go to a feeder school for law school or a political science or just CS. Academics, like, the liberal arts schools are not known for CS, but this school was already in the top 20, even for computer science. So we were like, this is great. And it was an all-girls school. I sent her to an all-girls school because a lot of girls have this selection bias where they will self-select themselves out of a competitive major simply because when they walk into the classroom, they see 25 boys and 5 girls. And before they know, they've already said, you know what, this is not for me. And they'll go and take on a like a psychology, or in med school, they'll go to OBGYN and stuff because they just don't see enough of their kind in the classroom. So I sent her to Wellesley College because I wanted her to be amongst all women. And she's come out really like kicking ass. She's going to finish in 3 years college. And, I'm scared of her now. So geographic setting, so most of us only think about this admission criteria, right? When we look at an application, we're like, oh, I want my kid to go to a top 20 school. I want them to go to a school like Harvard. Why? Because it's got a 4% acceptance rate. So by default, it must be a good school. That's never going to be a good reason to get into a school. The reasoning has to be the school has to meet your personality. Your personality has to fit over there. Why even apply to a school where you believe your kid's personality is not in line with theirs? Because the school will figure it out before you know that is this student my personality or not. But what I mean by that is Harvard is like a super competitive type A kind of students who show up over there. If your kid has not been a type A personality, not been a major go-getter, like getting into, debates and like going up in competitions, and, like the resume literally has like a finger showing through it saying, I'm here to make it to the world. Why even bother? Because Harvard will see through the application. Your kid just spent 30, 40 hours putting an application together. Not worth it. Does this answer the questions about college fit that some of you are having before me earlier? Okay, all right. This is 4 years of your child's life, right? They'll be attending only about 10 hours a week in school. Remember this, because you have to know where they're going to spend time outside of school, and understand this thing that colleges are like a magnet for depression. A major problem, like 50% of students, and statistically this is proven, okay, are on Prozac in college. College is not a bed of roses. It's a very, very shitty place where students are leaving home, going away over there. Half of them don't know how to cook food or to live on their own. They're victims of helicopter parenting that we have done for them. So really putting them in an environment where they're going to actually flourish and not just land up getting on medication is very, 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 very critical. Okay. Remember that, I've gone through that with Shreya, having nervous breakdowns in school and stuff. And, it's hard. I mean, even high school is so hard for these kids. And with COVID, it's just made everything horribly hard for them. Any questions about college? About the fit? Okay, all right. So now let's go into cost of college. When you go to college, your cost is going to be, if your child is going to go to a public university, in-state public university, the cost is typically about $140,000. Okay, depending if you're in Washington, UWash. If you're in UT, your cost is $140K for people from Texas. If you're going to a public school from out of state, like a California kid going to a UT Austin, the cost is about $210,000. Okay, this is for a 4-year undergraduate degree. If you go to a private school, a top 50 private school like Stanford or Harvard, your cost is about $280,000, okay, which is lodging and boarding back together. On top of that, add another $20,000, going home in and out and stuff. That's $300,000. So if you're trying to send your child to a big name school, and if you're making anything over $150,000 as your income in your house, your child's never going to qualify for financial aid, and you will end up getting to a school which does not give merit scholarship. And we'll talk about what that means as well. So cost is, if you send your child to a community college, okay, so this is there's a community college. I'll come over here. See this thing over here. If you go to a University of California public school, okay, if you go to a community college, your cost is less than $10,000, out of which again more like $8,000 to $9,000 is of your cost of just room board. If your child stays at home, you're spending only a couple of $1,000. Okay.
Are these in-state or out-of-state?
This is in-state. This is in-state for UC students, but again, apply the same logic to your state. Okay. Mm-hmm. If you have UCs, Karthik, where are you from?
Chicago.
Okay, so think of your UIUC, or look at your in-state schools over there. It's the same concept. Fundamentally, community college will be nothing. And the best part of this, Karthik, is that I'm a big fan of community college. In fact, for my second child, I've already had a talk with her that, dude, let's go to community college. And we'll talk about the reasoning around that whole thing. But the best part is from community college to make a jump to a university within the same this thing is pretty easy. As long as you have more than a 3.0 GPA, the colleges, not from state school, by the way, okay? from community college to make a jump to the university colleges within your state, they have these deals in place for with each other understandings where they will let them go in even with a 3.0 GPA. So spend 2 years in a community college, go sleep, stay at home, get more matured as people. I don't believe 17-year-olds of today really have enough in them to go to a college and be making food for themselves. I saw what Shreya went through. Humble opinion, please give this a thought. And there's some damn good community colleges. Like Tom Hanks went to a community college, okay? So you can go to, like, one of my friends, her daughter was struggling for all 4 years of high school, and to a point when they had to take her out of high school, and she went to Las Positas community college here in Livermore in the Bay Area. And now that kid, after having spent 4 years going to Las Positas and 1 year in, she had picked up enough credentials right there. She kept working at UC at Las Positas. After the very first year, she jumped into third year of University of Southern California. University of Southern California cost is $70,000 a year. Okay, she got into third year of USC, like the top 10 school in the country. Okay, so she's going to pay only for 2 years. So she's going to be $70,000 to $140,000, and her cost of UC of going to a community college was less than $2,000 bucks. So that's how I think people should plan their this thing.
I think, Harpal, I kind of have a similar thought as what you said, and even my son also thinks the same way. But then when I speak to people, usually people have a kind of it's like, hey, you know what, if you don't go to a good college, and then you don't really get the level of experience, right? The level of exposure that you need to get into the top-notch colleges, right? So now that you have been with people who have done this kind of, what's their experience? I mean, did it kind of like, was it a bit challenging to really transition, or how was that?
See, if your child is not really motivated to study, you send him to a UC or send him to a university or send him to a community college, it's going to screw up either way. Okay.
Right.
The difference is you, in one case, you'll end up being short of $130,000. Like one of my friends, her son went to San Jose State University, which is not a big university over here, costing $10,000 per year and all. For 2 years he did, and he left. So mother is on the hook to pay the bill for the whole thing, whatever it is. Okay. Students who are motivated, like I have Shreya's friend, they were struggling. They did not get into very good schools. So they went to community, like this one girl, she went to community college in De Anza College. And now she's in Haas, Berkeley Haas, right? Now, this girl was sharp, but like personality-wise, she was sharp, right? And they will go. Statistically, you will see, like, you can see all these statistics which say 1 in 4 kids never goes after community college to a high college and all. That is fine. That is right. But that's because the strata of people who go to community colleges are typically minorities, or they are not the first generation. Their parents don't have money, right? So the strata is, but if it's a Desi kid, honestly, who's going over there, it's fine, because Desi parents are going to jam so many values in the student already that you have to do it. And Desi kids are not into like drinking and drugs and everything. So the strata is different, and because again I'm seeing the names of everybody over here, that's why I'm making that kind of a statement. But it works out just fine. I have not seen a single child who did not go into community college and did not go. In fact, for med school, it is considered a positive thing. It shows resilience. It shows personality. That you went to 2 years, you maintained your grades, and then you went to a college over there, and they take it as a positive thing, not a negative thing. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
These are the schools, by the way. Okay. These are the schools where you will end up paying $300,000. Okay. If you are thinking of any of these schools on your list, these are schools. If you want to go anywhere over here, these are very good schools. Each of them, they're wealthy colleges over here. I obviously did not see this list when I sent my, when I was planning for Shreya. So I'm just showing this list to you, that if you see a school over here, which you're like, I want my child to go over here, you better plan for $300,000 in your pocket. Okay. That is if they're going now. If they're going to, like, they're Rahul's kids going after like 5-8 years, you should put you plan for about 6 to 7% inflation over here. Okay. 7% inflation is on an average they are charging, okay, every year. So plan for 7% inflation. You're talking about like doubling the price in about 5 years. Okay. These are what I call as value schools. Okay. Very, very good schools, not very expensive schools, and they give you damn good education. Okay. Like some of them, obviously Harvard and stuff over here, Stanford and all, but look at these schools. University of Florida. This school will cost you $20,000, okay, to go to this school. If you take in-state residency in Florida, After 1 year, you can get in-state residency over there. Your cost is $20,000. San Diego, LA, the UCs are very good, of course. MIT is very good. Urbana-Champaign is a damn good school in Illinois. Okay, Georgia Tech. This is really good in Atlanta side. Really, really good school. Okay, some hidden gems are like this one. Right? So you look at this one, Brigham Young. This is in Utah University. Okay, very small universities, Mormon universities. You don't see drugs over there. You're pretty simple-looking people over there. Good schools, man. Send the kids over there. These are like good schools to send your children to. Sunny Bringtown, these things. You don't hear about these schools as much. Like UNC Chapel Hill is a good school. People know about it, but you don't hear much about schools like this one. College of William Mary, University of Washington. UWash is very good, of course. People know about it. But like this one, University of Maryland, College Park, not very known universities. So look at these schools, very good value schools. And of course, I'll send out this presentation later to all of you. So you don't have to, or maybe just make screenshots in case I forget or anything. Okay.
Hey, Arpal, sorry to interrupt. I need to drop for a work call. I'll connect with you offline. Thank you very much for insights. Very
okay, man. Okay. All right.
We'll connect with you offline.
I'm sorry, I'm running. Really,
no worries.
I have quite a bit yet to talk. Students go to look at the difference between a college and a university. This is very, very important to know the difference between the two. Colleges are a lot smaller, like Wellesley College, where my daughter goes to. Universities like a UC Berkeley or a UT Austin, those are universities. Okay, you have to know your child's personality. Are they the personality who like big places, or like they're okay with a small place? In a college, you're never competing for the professor's attention with postgraduate students and stuff. You only have undergraduate students, much smaller class sizes, a lot more specialized, but universities have a lot more research opportunities. Okay, so most of the colleges are private and most universities are public. Okay, these are colleges you don't even hear about much, but these are amazing, amazing colleges. Pomona College is in California, Swarthmore is in Pennsylvania, Amherst in Massachusetts, William, Massachusetts, Wellesley, Massachusetts. The colleges are really East Coast education, no comparison with West Coast. Seriously, I mean, barring a Stanford and a UC, couple of UCs and stuff, East Coast is way amazing education. But if you look at private schools, like these are public schools I talked about, right? These are public schools also over here, like actually not many public schools, but honors program are basically like a private college within a state university. For example, Penn State, Shire, this is a very, very good honors program. So this is where they have the smaller classroom size so you're literally paying the price of like actually I have a slide over here, right? You're paying the cost of well below a Ivy League or the honors colleges are well below like the private schools, but the kind of education you get in honors school is very much akin to a private school. Okay, so your target should be either a public school or a very, very good private school like a Harvard or something, or look at these programs, these state school honors programs, the honors colleges, which are either honors colleges or the honors programs within a particular college. Like UT Austin has this honors program over here. For some of you who are in there, this one, Cooney Macaulay Honors School is really good. Barrett is a very good honors college within Arizona State. Like I was talking to a mother earlier today. Her child got into Barrett, but she still went to UIUC. Like why would you do something so stupid, right? Barrett Honor College in Arizona State is so good, but she chose to go to UIUC, which is a public school. Nothing wrong in that, but idiotic in my opinion. Okay. So these are the honors programs which I was talking about. AP subject choices, be very careful what you choose. Make sure your AP choices are not just based on what is being offered in your school, or you want to just keep doubling or tripling your APs on top of it. Be very careful about the APs. Also consider dual enrollment. Dual enrollment actually has more value at times than even a AP. But AP is going through an exam. Dual enrollment is a very different process that it goes through. Look at ROP programs in your neighborhood. There are all these programs you can do, which you can call out on your transcript, okay, which are really good. You don't have to just go with APs, but APs are super, super, super critical. I can't emphasize less about it. Make sure you have 3-4 APs in your list of schools your curriculum. SAT versus ACT. SAT is really more for ACT is people who tend to be more more English oriented. Like, make sure both of them, you try both of them. If you're going to give the public exam, these exams, make sure your child has actually spent time to go take SAT and ACT both. Shreya, my daughter, only took SAT and she was struggling at a 1400. She was not going beyond the 1400. And she was like, oh, I don't like it. But she hadn't paid attention to the ACT exam. Somebody told us later that, did you try? And we did not. So she tried ACT and she got a 34 in the first attempt, 34 out of 36. So that she was like through it. But by that time, we had already spent time going through 2 SAT exams, which was literally like, hours and hours of, work to prepare. Okay. Most schools are now test optional. Very few schools are test blind. So like the UCs are test blind, which means you don't have to submit at all. Test optional schools do want test scores. Like I say, if you have a good score, submit it. Anything over 1300 is a good score. But most schools are now becoming test optional. In fact, Harvard just announced the other day, they're going to stay test optional all the way to 2026, which means pretty much SAT, ACT will stay optional. It's no longer table stakes. You don't have to mandatorily take it. Very few schools like Georgetown still require you to take an SAT, but most schools don't require you to take it. The essay brainstorming is the process, like putting an essay together. Please don't just start with prompts. Okay, like these are the prompts which a UC will give to you, a University of California. Okay, these are still fairly easy to understand, these prompts. Okay, and write essays around these because these are University of California prompts. Most prompts, particularly if they look at the Common App and Coalition App, your head will spin. The students get really, really scared when they look at those prompts. So what's very important is to go through this whole essay brainstorming process, going through these details, and I'll talk through this process. I have all these things listed out, listing your ideas. Who are you? Detailed job that you did. What is it all subject that you really like? Going through all this personality thing about your personality, about who you are, is very, very critical. And as a counselor, I spend a lot of time with my students doing the brainstorming, which is well before we even look at the very first prompt. Okay. Then applying the UC doctrine, which is make sure you have understood these questions well and you can answer all of them. You should be able to answer all of these 8 questions very well, because when you apply to 20 schools, you will realize that you need about 10 to 12 good stories about your life, which you can apply to different scenarios. Okay, so if this gives you 8 good stories, like solid 8 stories, now you can apply to 20 schools with pretty good confidence that you won't get stuck along the way. Your creativity falls significantly, exponentially by November timeframe. By December time of application year, you have nothing left in your personality to write an essay. Okay, that's the reality. You just won't have anything left. So make sure you spend enough time with your counselor, brainstorming, putting together 10, 12 good stories. And stories are not about just what happened. What happened is just 10% of your story or 20% of your story. What you learned out of it, how did you help the community, how it has changed you as a person, is 80% of your story. Okay, so having those Rodexes down of your personality are very, very critical. Okay, any questions about you so far? Is anything? I'm pretty much done at this point, but any questions so far? Okay, all right. So these are the services I provide. Success Coach, these are topic-specific workshops you get. If you go back to the on Zoom page, which I have where you registered for this thing, you can see all my different workshops over there. I also provide a package, which is you can attend all my workshops for $300 a year. These are paid specific workshops of $50 a session, really. And this one, it gives you the option to take on more sessions with me. But for the workshops, like for example, I'm running an entrepreneurship workshop next week, 3 hours over 3 days. But I'm teaching entrepreneurship to my students, to the ones who are a part of my cohort, because I want them to really start building their basic businesses. Like somebody wants to become a photographer, somebody wants to become a teacher. So, how can they start making money now? Is the entrepreneurship class I'm teaching. So those things become free to all my students with this workshop. My private coaching is what I do, which is personalized, multi-year plans. You get progression reports for parents. It's a Google Classroom where you get access to all the details, assignments. You get assignments on a periodic basis to work on. If you miss the assignments, I come to know about it. So it's a whole process to know exactly where my students are with their particular deliverables that they were supposed to work with me on, with deadlines along them. My sessions, if you ever they need to take up something with me. If you just have essays that you want me to review, it's a 3-hour minimum package at $200 an hour. Annual packages, I welcome students coming in. Again, you don't have to stay with me. I'm not. My goal is not to hold people for the entire time. If you feel you're getting good worth of it, keep staying with me. This is the pricing. Freshman year, $1,000, 1,000. Then junior year, I put in a lot more time with them. 2,000, and senior year is the bulk of the work, which is at $5,000. Okay, those are the classrooms I provide, and that's it. With that, I'm going to open it up for questions. Anybody has any questions?